Are there any absences tonight that anyone knows of?
None that I'm aware of, Marty.
Well, good evening, folks. It is 6 o'clock, and I'll call the Missoula City Council meeting of September 13th, 2021 to order. Pardon me. This is a Zoom webinar meeting as a function of the global pandemic. A number of ways to participate in this meeting. You've seen them on the screen and over the many months now that we've been conducting these meetings remotely. We have all council members present this evening, except for Ms. West just joined us. We are missing currently Mr. Hess and Ms. Anderson and Ms. Becerra. Somebody just joined us, sorry. That looks like the list so far, but I'll keep you posted as the meeting goes on, folks. Pardon me. We have minutes of the meeting of August 30th. Any changes to those minutes? And if not, they'll be approved. Right. Seeing none, we'll move on to our schedule of committee meetings. Ms. Redvine.
Thanks, Mayor Engen. Hang on just a second and I'll share my screen and we'll take a look at that committee schedule. Okay, here we go. City Council is setting up committee meetings for September 15th today, or Wednesday. That's Wednesday, September 15th. Committee of the whole will meet from 9:15 in the morning to 9:55. They're going to have a presentation. Administration and Finance Committee will meet from 10:10 to 12:15 in the afternoon. And Public Works Committee will meet from 12:45 to 1:15. And the Land Use and Planning Committee will round out the day from 1:30 to 3 o'clock. Just like this meeting, these meetings are being held via Zoom webinar. And in order to attend our meetings, all you need to do is go to the city's website. Google is probably a friend here. And you'll come on this page here for the city of Missoula, and right below the great big pretty picture, you will see a meetings button. If you click on that meetings button, it'll take you to Agenda Central for the city. Hang on just a second. And you'll be able to see all of these committee meetings as well as all our board and commission meetings. If you click on the one that you'd like to attend and look at the agenda, all the information that you need to join the meeting, any one of our public meetings, is located right here at the top of the agenda. Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Rabine. I will note that Ms. Anderson and Ms. Becerra are here for the record. We'll move on to the public comment portion of our agenda. This is your opportunity to comment on items not elsewhere on the agenda. You need to just raise your hand in the participants box and I will call on you. Ms. McCafferty, do we need to promote you to a panelist?
Yes, please. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I can do that. All right, any other comment this evening? All right, seeing no hands raised in the audience for general public comment, we'll move on to our consent agenda. Items there were approved unanimously in council committees. We save a little time on Monday evenings by considering these items all at once. Ms. Rabine will read the list of consent agenda items aloud, so those watching via Zoom will know what we're considering, and we'll take comment on those items before we vote as well. I'll also note for the record that Mr. Hess has joined us. Ms. Rabine.
Thanks, Mayor Engen. I didn't realize I hadn't muted yet or turned off my mic. So tonight's consent agenda has 7 items. Here we go. Item number 1 is to ratify accounts payable in the amount of $1,044,517.92 for checks that were dated September 7th, 2021. Or ratifying those bills that we paid last week tonight, because City Council didn't hold a meeting on Labor Day. Number 2 is to approve accounts payable in the amount of $673,577 for checks that are dated tomorrow, September 14th of 2021. Number 3 is the first reading and preliminary adoption of an ordinance. It's a long one, so here we go. City Council this evening is setting a public hearing on September 27th of 2021 and preliminarily adopting an ordinance rezoning property located at 500 South Higgins Avenue, legally described in Exhibit A in the attachments on the agenda, from Missoulian Planned Unit Development, which is also called a PUD, and M1R-2, which is a limited industrial residential zoning district in the city, to C1-4, which is a neighborhood commercial district, DE-D, which is a design excellence overlay in the downtown hip strip, and OP1, which is an open space district in the city. So going from Missoulian PUD and limited industrial residential to neighborhood commercial, design excellence overlay for the hip strip and open space. That proposal is subject to the applicant filing an amended plat and meeting the terms of approval for subdivision exemption application number 2021 MSSSEA 20 within 180 days of approval of the rezoning. That's assuming that council approves the rezoning, subject to review and approval by the Development Services Division of the Community Planning, CPDI, which is Community Planning, Development and Innovation, and Public Works and Mobility Departments. Otherwise, the rezoning of the property would become null and void and the property would revert to its original status. Finally, council plans to refer this item to the Land Use and Planning Committee for a presentation after the public hearing concludes on September 29th. Number 4 is to adopt a resolution declaring the official intent of the city of Missoula to reimburse certain original expenditures related to the purchase of capital equipment from proceeds of tax-exempt bonds to be issued by the city after the repayment of such original expenditures. That's a requirement of the Internal Revenue Code. And so is number 5. It's council's adopting a resolution declaring the official intent of the city of Missoula to reimburse certain original expenditures related to sidewalk, curb, gutter, and alley approach improvements from the proceeds of tax-exempt bonds to be issued by the city after the payment of such original expenditures. Number 6 is to set a public hearing on September 20th, 2021 on a resolution of the Missoula City Council setting Missoula Redevelopment Agency policy. And finally, number 7 is to set a public hearing for Monday, September 20th of 2021 to review the City of Missoula Consolidated Annual Performance and Evaluation Report for HUD. That's the Housing and Urban Development Federal Agency. It's for our HUD-funded programs for the program year of 2020. This report is also known as our CAPER. That's the acronym for that. That's tonight's consent agenda. Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Rabine. Questions or comments from council members? Mr. Ramos.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Can we divide the question and vote on item 5.2 separately due to $15,000 going to Boone Carlberg for the water arbitration?
We may. And Mr. Hess.
Thanks. I wanted to clarify, I think all the council members are aware, but for any members of the public who are watching, that the reason of the Missoulian building is not being approved tonight. It is being referred to council committee and there's a public hearing being set. And so there's opportunity to provide comment on that, and actions tonight do not signify approval.
Thank you, Mr. Hess. Ms. Merritt.
Thanks. I just, for the record, I will be abstaining from voting on item 5.3, the rezone request for the Missoulian building.
Thank you, Ms. Merritt. Seeing no additional questions or comments from council members, anyone in the audience care to comment this evening on consent agenda items? And seeing no hands there, we will move on. Pardon me, we have no comments from city staff, agencies, boards, commissions, authorities, nor the community forum. We do have.
Point of order, Mariangan. We did not vote on the consent agenda.
We should vote, as it turns out. I'm a little rattled by there's an election tomorrow, and I keep forgetting about this voting thing. Beg your pardon, Ms. Rabine. Let's go ahead and vote on items 5.1 and 5.3 through 5.7, please.
Let's do 5.1 and 5.4 through 5.7. And because Ms. Merritt has indicated that she wishes to abstain on item 5.3. Anderson.
Yes.
Becerra.
Yes.
Contos.
Yes.
Harp.
Yes.
Hess.
Yes.
Jones.
Yes.
Merritt.
Yes.
Ramos.
Yes.
Cheryl.
Yes.
Basika.
Yes.
Von Lossberg.
Yes.
And West.
Yes.
Okay, that is 12 ayes. And on item number 5.2, this is the accounts payable. Okay, let's start this round with Becerra.
Yes.
Contos.
No.
Harp.
Yes.
Hess.
Yes.
Jones.
Yes.
Merritt.
Yes.
Ramos.
No.
Cheryl.
Yes.
Basika.
No.
Von Lossberg.
Yes.
West.
Yes.
And Anderson.
Yes.
Okay, would any of you like to change your vote? It's 9 ayes and 3 nays. And then on item 5.3, Contos.
Yes.
Harp.
Yes.
Hess.
Yes.
Jones.
Yes.
Merritt.
I abstain.
Ramos.
Yes.
Cheryl.
Yes.
Basika.
Yes.
Von Lossberg.
Yes.
West.
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Becerra.
Yes.
Anyone like to change your vote there? That is 11 ayes and 1 abstention. Thank you.
And the consent agenda is approved. Once again, we don't have any of those comments. We do have 3 proclamations for special presentations this evening. First, whereas, pardon me, arts education enables students to develop critical thinking and problem-solving skills, imagination and creativity, discipline and collaboration, alternative ways to communicate and express feelings and ideas, and cross-cultural understanding, which supports academic success across the curriculum. And whereas arts education contributes to increased attendance and graduation rates, elevates academic achievement, and prepares students for college, career, and citizenship readiness. And whereas arts education contributes to personal growth outside of the classroom, including increasing a student's likelihood to participate in civic life, volunteerism, altruism, and community engagement. And whereas to succeed in today's economy, students must masterfully develop traits that business leaders demand in a 21st century workforce, such as communicating through words, images, sounds, and movement. And whereas the arts are an integral part of life in the United States, Montana, and Missoula, and are an integral part of a complete education, which contributes to the vibrancy and vitality of communities in the nation. Now, therefore, I, John Engen, Mayor of the City of Missoula and the state of Montana, hereby recognize the week of September 12th through 18th as Arts in Education Week in Missoula. Second proclamation this evening, whereas September 17th, 2021 marks the 234th anniversary of the framing of the Constitution of the United States of America by the Constitutional Convention, and whereas it is fitting and proper to give official recognition to this document and its memorable anniversary and to the patriotic celebrations which will commemorate it, and whereas Public Law 915 guarantees the issuing of a proclamation each year by the President of the United States of America, designating September 17th through 23rd as Constitution Week. Now, therefore, I, John Engen, Mayor of the City of Missoula and the state of Montana, hereby recognize the 17th day of September as Constitution Day and the 17th of September through the 23rd of September as Constitution Week, and urge all citizens to study the Constitution and to reflect on the privilege of being an American with all the rights and responsibilities which that privilege involves. And our final proclamation this evening, ladies and gentlemen, whereas the City of Missoula does affirm and acknowledge the benefit of thousands of residents from United Way of Missoula County's work on behalf of our community, and whereas we recognize the importance of celebrating 90 years of that service, and whereas we support solutions that help people change their lives through United Way-led programs and initiatives, and whereas we ask the Missoula community to join us in recognizing the accomplishments felt by all since United Way's founding in 1931, and whereas we affirm United Way of Missoula County's work to ensure that all people in our community have equal opportunity to improve their financial stability, education, and health. Now, therefore, I, John Engen, Mayor of the City of Missoula and the state of Montana, hereby recognize the 16th day of September 2021 as United Way of Missoula County Day. And I thank all those good folks at Missoula County, United Way, and those who generously participate in funding that organization. They're a great community partner and certainly a great partner to the City of Missoula. All right, with that, we have a number of public hearings this evening, and state law and our own council rules set guidelines for inviting community comment in a formal way on a variety of issues. Following a staff report on each of these items, council and I will invite community comment. During the pandemic, we have held public hearings open for a week, so council will not consider these items this evening. But will consider them finally at our next regular meeting. Our first public hearing this evening is on an Edward Byrne JAG, that's the Justice Assistant Grant Memorandum of Understanding, and our staff report should be from Scott Hoffman this evening. I don't see, so I will pinch hit the staff report. So every year, City of Missoula, the police department is eligible for a grant from the Department of Justice. This year's grant is $63,580. We typically receive this grant, share a portion of it with Missoula County, and it goes to support our law enforcement efforts. The public hearing this evening actually does not require council action. The grant itself does require a public hearing, and this is it, but there is no action for you to take this evening. So that is my sudden staff report. Culled from years of hearing this staff report. but it's a good thing for the city. It's money we can use. So with that, Ms. Anderson?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was actually trying to look back through meeting notes from when we heard this in committee. I do think it's a two-part one where there is a memo or a letting you sign the grant, and then the grant itself per whatever the does require the hearing.
That's actually new.
And I could have that wrong. I
No, I don't. Let me actually look here.
yes, I was looking back from when.
Oh yeah, you're right. I will in fact ask for a motion this evening. That way we can get the ball rolling on this.
Happy to make a motion.
All right. The motion is made, but I will ask for whether anyone in the audience would care to comment on the JAG grant. All right, seeing none, we do have a motion from Ms. Anderson authorizing the signature on the memorandum of understanding. Is there any discussion on that? All right, seeing none, Ms. Rabine will have a roll call vote.
Okay, on the JAG MOU, Memorandum of Understanding with Missoula County, Harp.
Yes.
Hess.
Yes.
Jones.
Yes.
Merritt.
Yes.
Ramos.
Yes.
Cheryl.
Yes.
DeSica.
Yes.
Von Lossberg.
Yes.
West.
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Becerra.
Yes.
Contos.
Yes.
Would any of you like to change your vote? That is 12 ayes.
And the motion carries. Our second public hearing, which actually has a staff report this evening, is on an annexation question at England Boulevard. And our staff report this evening comes from Caitlin McCafferty. Ms. McCafferty.
Hello, can you all hear me and see my screen?
We can.
Yay. I'm Caitlin McCafferty. Good evening. I'm an associate planner with the Permits and Land Use Division of Development Services here this evening to review an annexation petition that was submitted by Mike Morgan of Hoffman Morgan and Associates, representing Elmar LLC. The request is to annex into the city of Missoula and zone upon annexation 2 parcels located south of England Boulevard between Connery Way and Tina Avenue. The intended vision of this project is to build multi-dwelling residential buildings. As a refresher, Montana Code annotated Title 7, Chapter 2 provides several ways to add land into municipalities to annex land. City Council has authority over all additions. City Council may impose conditions. The city must provide services to the annexed property, and a public hearing on zoning and annexation is required, which is why we're here today. The subject properties are located just south of England Boulevard and west of North Reserve Street, shown here outlined in blue and marked with the star. The areas in red are identifying the current city boundaries. You can see that it's pretty surrounded. This is an aerial without the city boundary overlay. Again, subject parcel in blue with the star. And as you can see, there's a lot of residential development existing surrounding all sides of this property, which is an important fact in my staff evaluation. The current zoning, this is the current zoning map as it is today. The subject parcels are zoned in the county. They're zoned C2-2, which is the county's general commercial zone. This zoning district provides for retail trades and services that are inherently automotive, highway oriented. So think gas stations, car dealerships, and some other lower intensity commercial uses, offices, restaurants, personal services, as well as residential services at a density of 1 dwelling unit per 1,000 square feet. The property is currently vacant, so it is not in operation under any of these uses. And the subject property is also located within the airport influence overlay. This is an overlay established to preserve the safety and utility of the airport and the public investment in it. This overlay is an important fact for the recommended conditions at the end of my presentation. So remember, it's in the airport influence area overlay. Oh, actually, before I move on, I'm going to go back to this slide and note the surrounding zones. So that point I made before about it being surrounded by residential development, you can really see it also in this map. So RT10 in the gray, that's residential 2-unit townhouse. RMH in the yellow, that's residential manufactured housing park. And as you get closer to Reserve Street over here, you have C1-4 and C2-4. Those are commercial zones. However, residential uses do exist and are allowed in these areas as well. Now to the site plan. So I think you have a bit of a feel for the context and location of where this project is. Here is a very, very preliminary site plan of the proposed multi-dwelling units. That is the vision for and the reason for this annexation. It's gonna be 2 buildings. You can see this here and here with the parking in the middle. About 76 dwelling units, a mix of 1 and 2 bedrooms. So while you're digesting this, keep in mind that the development proposal is not a part of an annexation approval request. I'm just showing this illustration and the next one to help y'all picture the applicant's vision and the project and the reason for applying for this annexation. Here are some, again, preliminary, not finalized or approved, and not a part of this request or approval, elevations of the property. I'm just showing these so you can get a general feel for the design of the facades. This is the view from England Boulevard. Okay, back to the maps. This is a zoom in of Missoula's annexation policy map. The subject parcels are these 2 slightly raised green parcels outlined in blue and within the red star. The property's green color identifies it as within annexation area A, which means that these areas largely meet the guidelines for annexation. The property also is completely surrounded by yellow areas, which are the city limits. These facts are important because it shows that the subject parcels, if annexed, would contribute to a pretty logical growth pattern of the city. It'll create orderly, contiguous municipal boundaries. And the city annexation policy states that the city should prioritize the annexation of areas that have these qualities, like the subject property. Speaking of the annexation policy, it was adopted in 2019 to guide the city to carry out orderly development, including efficient delivery of municipal services and developed and developing areas. It also has the purpose to implement the regulatory authorities necessary to protect public health, safety, and general welfare. This means that if and when annexation occurs, the city is accepting responsibility to provide the same level of service and infrastructure to newly annexed properties as they do anywhere else in the city. Along with abiding with the annexation policy, annexation proposals must also follow recommendations in the city's growth policy. So as you can see, this is the growth policy land use map with, again, the subject parcel in blue with the star. It identifies the subject parcel under the regional and commercial services land use designation, which is this pink area. The designation is intended for commercial uses that require larger land areas. So again, thinking about that auto-oriented business, auto repair shops, gas stations, Also construction and warehousing. This is because the areas are really close to Reserve Street, which is a major transportation route. Along with all these commercial uses, high density residential development is also intended for this land use. So when evaluating a project for the growth policy and its compliance with it, staff takes into consideration both the land use designation, but also the entire growth policy stated, the elements of the growth policy, and site-specific conditions, which is really important for this report. The table at the top right here, this is from the chapter that explains regional and commercial services, so that land use designation of the subject property. And it recommends current relatable zoning. It recommends community commercial, neighborhood commercial, open lands, and limited industrial. Those are the relatable zonings for this parcel. But again, that's not the only factor that we take into consideration. It's important to note that in the housing element section of the growth policy, goal number 4 states that the city shall provide for the diverse housing needs while protecting the strong sense of place in the community and neighborhoods through compatible residential developments. This housing element also calls for the city to cultivate leadership to support rezoning of land to allow for multi-dwelling residential units in appropriate areas. Further, the next symbol represents the livability element in the city growth policy. Its goal number 4 states that Missoula will make thoughtful decisions about land use planning that support the needs and values of residents in regards to neighborhoods and community character, parks, trails, and natural resources. The chapter also addresses the need to preserve the integrity of neighborhoods from encroachment of incompatible development and calls for the city to encourage development that preserves community character and the character of the neighborhoods. So these last 2 elements, the goals from housing and livability, cause staff to consider the surrounding residential uses of the subject property when recommending a specific zone for the zoning upon annexation for this project. When taking into consideration the current relatable zoning, staff determined that the commercial and industrial current relatable districts that I listed at this top table are not appropriate for parcels surrounded by residential uses. Again, think about a construction business or a car dealership right next to a residence. So therefore, applying a more transitional zone is what we're going to recommend that speaks to these goals of compatibility. That transitional zone is B2-2 community business, shown here in blue on the proposed zoning map. The current project, again, proposing multi-dwelling residential. However, having the parcel be zoned one of the current relatable, those heavier industrial or commercial zones, would mean that the parcel, if it was sold later or switched uses, it would carry the permitted uses of having those heavy auto-oriented uses, such as car dealerships, that don't fit with the larger context of this area. So we really wanted to have that transitional zone that took out the option for those heavy industrial uses. And B2-2 is a zone that does that. To further clarify, I made this fun table. So this is the recommended zone, B2-2, and these 3 right here, C1-4, C2-4, and 1R-2, are those zones that were listed in the current relatable zoning under the land use designation and the growth policy. And as you go through it, the allowed density is the same. The allowed uses are where it's a little bit different. So B2-2 has the same residential allowed uses as the current relatable zoning. It has the same low intensity commercial, but the difference is that B2-2 doesn't have that high density or high intensity commercial uses. And therefore, compatible with the housing goals of the growth policy, B2-2 is a yes. Compatible with livability goals, B2-2 is also a yes, where the other ones are not. And the only flip for that is that these are the current relatable zones, and B2-2 is not specifically listed. So zoning criteria with annexation. So when considering a zone with an annexation, the zoning classification must comply with one of these three following criteria. This project does not hit criteria A or B. However, criteria C is where it complies. Based on staff evaluation, we believe that B2-2 is consistent with the land use and zoning recommendations for the subject areas as set forth in the growth policy. This is because it generally complies with the density and the uses of those current relatable zones. They're all the same except for the high intense commercial ones. And the reason that we're not recommending those high intense commercial uses to be allowed is because when we take the entire growth policy into account, specifically those parts of the housing and livability goals that I called out earlier, that what they call specifically for neighborhood compatibility, and these site-specific conditions, those surrounding residential uses really need to be taken in consideration. So that's why B2-2 does comply with the growth policy. And that leads us to our first and only condition of approval, which is a callback from like the first slide. And the condition of approval that we recommend is that the petitioner shall obtain an avigation easement from the airport authority in compliance with the airport influence area resolution and present evidence of the easement subject to review and approval of development services prior to the issuance of a building permit for the first building to be constructed on the property. So basically just complying with that airport influence area to ensure safety. And we're not voting tonight. However, the recommended motion that we will vote on, and by we, I mean council will vote on, is staff recommends to adopt a resolution to annex and incorporate within the boundaries of the city of Missoula the two parcels of land as shown on Exhibit A on England Boulevard, right away adjacent, located in the south half section of Section 7, Township 13 North, Range 19 West, and zone the property B2-2 community business upon annexation based on the findings of fact in the staff report and subject to the recommended condition of approval. And that's all that I've got. Any questions?
Thank you, Ms. McCafferty. And with that, I will open the public hearing. Again, noting that the public hearing will remain open until next Monday for folks to comment. And seeing no comment from attendees, questions from council members. Ms. Merritt.
Thanks, Caitlin. Thank you so much for that very thorough explanation. And I really appreciate yours and staff's effort to find what is a compatible zoning for this location. So just to be clear, there are a couple of buildings, it looks like, on that property, but there are no residences on that property. Is that correct?
Correct. Everything as of now is demoed. It's vacant. There's no residents.
Excellent. Thank you.
And Ms. Hurt.
Thanks. Caitlin, great presentation. And I have to say, I always appreciate the side-by-side comparison of the proposed zoning to what it's going to, or the other alternatives that are out there. My question to you is, when we look at that map of, I think one of the original first maps that you showed us, this particular parcel is one of very few that is not annexed into the city. And it looks like, my question to you is, why would someone, and this is just guessing here, why would someone delay to make this kind of upzoning change this late in the game when everything else has been annexed by the city and upzoned? It just seems like a lengthy and perhaps more expensive way to do business.
what do you mean, or who do you mean by why would someone? Why would the city or why would the applicant?
Why would the applicant wait this long to make a decision to annex and then rezone? Is there perhaps a benefit to that I do not understand?
It's likely just about timing and previous ownership would be my guess. Caitlin, I don't want you to have to dig too deep on that one because I'm not sure that any of us have that answer, but that'd be my guess, Ms. Hart.
Okay, thank you. It just looks like the whole rest of it was swallowed up at one point, so.
I can't see the list of attendees, but if the applicant, either Mike Morgan or the owner, raise your hand if you have an answer for that. Otherwise, we could put a pin in it and get you an answer later.
Mr. Morgan, you go ahead.
Hello, everybody. Thank you. Can you hear us okay?
We can, thank you.
I have Albert O'Selamy and Nick O'Selamy with me here, the applicants, and they just recently became the owners of the property, and so that's the reason why the application now. I can't speak for the previous owners, but new owner of the property who wishes to develop the property now.
Thanks, Mike. Appreciate the context. Thanks.
You're very welcome.
Thanks, Mike. Further questions? Mr. Hess.
Thanks. I believe I know the answer to this because of a meeting with staff as LUP chair, but it'd be good to get into the record from Mr. Morgan and the applicants that the applicants are in favor of the staff recommended zoning and that it meets their needs.
Yes, we are.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Morgan?
I believe I was asked a question there. And yes, we're in favor of Caitlin's recommendation. She did a great job. Thank you.
Great, thank you. All right, seeing no additional questions, this item will remain open for comment until next week when council considers this finally and votes. We have no additional public hearings this evening, nor do we have any items for final consideration tonight. I'll pass on communications from the mayor and begin comments from council members with Mr. Hess.
I'll pass, thanks.
Mr. Contos.
I'll pass, thank you.
Ms. Cheryl.
Yeah, thanks. Just quickly, because I'm doing this every week, we are at kind of one of our highest points in hospitalizations right now. We have 42 people hospitalized. That really creates an issue with capacity. We had 114 new cases on Friday, which put us at, I think there have only been in the entire pandemic, or well, not the entire one, but since the beginning of December, we've had like 3 days that are that high. We have 69 cases on a rolling average per 100,000 people per day. So 69 cases per day. So our goal is being under 25. I mean, this is, I don't know how to appeal to people more to get vaccinated and to be safe than we already have, but this is not going away quickly. This is creating a real problem for our hospitals. You know, it scares me, to be honest. I feel scared. I feel scared for my teenage daughter driving around. And if something was to happen to her, I feel scared for people having heart attacks. I mean, I don't know what else to do other than just continue to beg people and hope people get as scared as I feel about what's happening.
Thank you, Ms. Cheryl. Ms. Jones. Mr. Von Losberg.
Pass.
Ms. Vasika.
I'll pass as well. Thank you.
Ms. Merritt.
If you still have your ballot for the primary elections sitting around, please go ahead and drop it off at the elections office tomorrow. That will be the last day. Thanks.
Mr. Ramos.
I will pass. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Ms. West,
Pass.
Ms. Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to echo what Ms. Cheryl said. I have family in healthcare, and I can tell you that they are exhausted and heartbroken. And if you can't do it for you, you can't do it for your family. If you can't stay safe and be vaccinated, for all the kids who can't, do it for the healthcare workers, because you want them at the top of your game if God forbid you ever need to find yourself in the hospital. And I know earlier this year, we at 8 o'clock would go out and clap for them, and we, had signs out in front of the hospital. And all of those platitudes are pretty worthless if we're not willing to do what it actually takes to keep, not burning them out and overburdening them to the point of, staff shortages and, running out of ICU beds and ventilators. The clapping is not what they need right now. They need everyone to wear their masks, get vaccinated, shut down your circle, because we are having breakthrough cases. They're not as bad, but your breakthrough case from a vaccinated can get transferred to somebody who isn't vaccinated, and they get very sick and end up in the hospital. So just absolutely echo Miss Cheryl's plea to the community to please do more than what you're doing now, because what you're doing now is not enough.
Ms. Hart.
Thank you. I wanted to commend the United Way on its 90th anniversary. 90 years of giving back to communities, especially here in Missoula, is no small feat. And they've been for years and decades addressing different needs in our community. But one that is really very near and dear to my heart is Project Tomorrow, which is our suicide prevention group. September is Suicide Prevention Month. Coincides coincidentally with my birthday month, so I really take it to heart. When I think about what both Amber and Stacy said a little bit ago about asking folks to do the right thing and get vaccinated, let me tell you, as a person who deals with her occasional suicidal thoughts, if there's one thing I wish I could have a vaccine for, that would be suicidal thoughts. And unfortunately, that's just not something that's in the cards. But when we have a pandemic like this that is completely fixable with actions that we can all take to look out for ourselves, our families, and one another, it makes us stronger, longer together. And I just wish all of us could see the sense in that. And it actually, when we get vaccinated, creates more freedoms to go about our regular business so that we can do the things we want to do and not have to be masked up. But we can't do that until we have those numbers where we are a vaccinated community. So please reach out to those that you may be on the fence. I know there are a lot of folks who are, and ask them to talk to their doctor or talk to someone who may just may have gone through some pretty ugly things because they lost someone. And with that, thank you all.
Thank you, Ms. Hart. And Ms. Becerra.
Thank you. I just wanted to thank the mayor for reading the proclamation about Arts and Education Week. I sit on the board of Spark Arts Missoula, and the way that art has enhanced the life of children in Missoula County is very impactful, especially during COVID. The kiddos were able to learn in a more fun way. And if you haven't already seen the mural that kids put together with their art projects, it's on the alley of Radius Gallery. So take a look. One of the panels there is from all the, I believe is fifth graders, fourth and fifth graders of Missoula County Public Schools. So thank you.
And thank you all. We have no committee reports this evening. We have no new business. Are there any additional items to be referred? Seeing none of those, any miscellaneous communications, reports, petitions, or announcements? Seeing none, as always, I thank you for your service, and we will be adjourned.